Let's be real. Every room has an invisible social hierarchy, and most of us are wondering how some people just effortlessly float to the top. It's like there's this secret manual for being magnetic that everyone else read. But you were apparently absent that day. Here's the thing though, it's not magic, it's not genetics, and it's definitely not luck. Here's the most important thing you'll hear today. You think coolness is about impressing other people, but really cool people aren't trying to impress anyone. They're just genuinely interested in stuff, and that interest is contagious. The biggest reason you're not the coolest person in the room yet is because you're still asking for permission to be yourself. You're waiting for someone else to validate your interests, your opinions, your weird sense of humor. Cool people gave themselves permission a long time ago. Think about it. When you meet someone who's genuinely passionate about something, even if it's something you've never cared about, there's something magnetic about that energy. Whether it's a girl who can talk for hours about vintage fashion or a guy who gets genuinely excited explaining how engines work, passion is attractive. But most of us dial down our enthusiasm because we're scared of being too much. We've been conditioned to shrink ourselves to fit in, when the actually cool people are the ones who expanded to stand out. You wait for someone to ask your opinion before sharing it. Meanwhile, the cool people already decided their interests are valid, their opinions matter, and their presence adds value. Which brings us to something nobody explains about social dynamics: the attention economics game. Every social situation operates on attention economics. There's limited attention in the room, and it flows toward whoever provides the most value. Most people are attention consumers. They show up hoping to get attention, validation, or connection from other people, but they're not bringing much to the table themselves. Cool people are attention generators. When someone tells a story, attention consumers are already thinking about their own similar story to share next. Attention generators are actually listening and asking follow-up questions. When there's an awkward silence, attention consumers wait for someone else to fill it. Attention generators either embrace the silence or move the conversation forward. The coolest person in the room isn't usually the one getting the most attention. They're the one making sure everyone else is having a good time. And paradoxically, that's exactly what makes people want to be around them. But attention economics isn't just about social skills. It's about having something worth paying attention to. Which brings us to the real problem most people don't want to admit: the boring person epidemic. A lot of people aren't the coolest person in the room because they've accidentally made themselves boring. If your hobbies are watching Netflix, scrolling TikTok, and hanging out with friends, you're not bringing unique value to conversation. You're basically a human recommendation algorithm. Cool people create more than they consume. They don't just scroll social media. They create content or curate interesting finds to share. The boring person epidemic happened because we got comfortable being passive participants in our own lives. We stopped developing skills, stopped pursuing weird interests, stopped having strong opinions because it's easier to just exist. But existing isn't interesting. And if you're not interesting, you can't be cool. Girls who are genuinely into vintage thrifting and can tell you the history behind a 1970s jacket, that's interesting. Guys who learn to cook well enough to improvise recipes, that's interesting. People who read books and can explain why they loved or hated them, interesting. People who have strong opinions about coffee, music production, or literally anything they've invested time in understanding, interesting. But people who just consume whatever the algorithm feeds them and have no opinion stronger than it was good or it was mid, that's conversational beige wallpaper. Stop trying to be relatable to everyone and start being genuinely interesting to yourself. When you're actually interested in your own life, other people become interested in you. The authenticity trap. And this is where things get really messy because everyone talks about just be yourself like it's simple advice, but most people have no idea who they actually are underneath all the social conditioning. The authenticity trap is thinking that being yourself means being the same version of yourself in every situation. But really cool people understand something most people don't. Authenticity isn't about being the same all the time. It's about being honest about who you are in each moment. Here's what I mean. You're probably a different person when you're with your family versus your friends versus your coworkers versus strangers at a party. And that's not being fake. That's being human. Different situations bring out different aspects of your personality. The problem happens when you try to force one version of yourself into every situation. Like being the same level of sarcastic with your boss as you are with your best friend. Or trying to be as deep and philosophical at a party as you are in private conversation. conversations. Cool people read rooms and adjust their energy accordingly, but they never compromise their core values or pretend to be someone they're not. There's a difference between adapting and lying, but here's where most people get trapped. They think authenticity means showing every part of themselves to everyone all the time. That's not authentic. That's just poor social awareness. You don't need to trauma dump on strangers to be real. You don't need to share every random thought that crosses your mind to be genuine. You don't need to be weird in the same way in every situation to be true to yourself. Authenticity is about being honest within appropriate boundaries. It's about knowing yourself well enough to show the right parts of yourself at the right times. Cool people have mastered this balance. They can be professional when needed, playful when appropriate, serious when the situation calls for it, and goofy when the vibe is right. But they never pretend to have interests they don't have or values they don't hold. The authenticity trap catches people who think they need to choose between being likable and being real. But the coolest people are both, because they understand that being genuinely yourself, when you actually know who that is naturally likable. Most people just haven't done the work to figure out who they are beyond their job, their relationship status, and their streaming service preferences. And that self-awareness thing? That's actually where the real coolness work happens. The self-awareness gap. Cool people know their strengths and lean into them. They know their weaknesses and either work on them or own them honestly. They know what energy they bring and they're intentional about it. Most people are walking around with no idea how they come across. They think they're being funny when they're actually being annoying. They think they're being confident when they're actually being arrogant. You can't be genuinely cool without being genuinely self-aware. Because coolness requires understanding your impact on other people and adjusting accordingly. Self-aware people know when they're talking too much. They notice when their energy doesn't match the room. They can tell when their jokes aren't landing, and they adjust instead of doubling down. Cool people know what triggers them and don't let those triggers control their behavior. They know what makes them insecure and don't project that onto others. The self-awareness gap is why some people can walk into any room and seem to belong, while others always feel off-kilter. Cool people recognize awkwardness faster and navigate through it instead of getting stuck in it. The real secret. So here's what it all comes down to, and this might be the only thing you need to remember from this entire video. The coolest person in the room isn't trying to be the coolest person in the room. They're trying to have the most genuine experience possible, and that authenticity creates a magnetic effect that draws people in. You're not the coolest person in the room yet because you're still performing instead of just being. You're still asking permission instead of just participating. You're still consuming instead of creating. You're still waiting instead of acting. But here's the good news. All of that is fixable. Coolness isn't a personality trait you're born with or without. It's a skill set you can develop. Start giving yourself permission to be interested in what interests you. Start adding value to conversations instead of just waiting for your turn to talk. Start developing opinions about things that matter to you. Start taking responsibility for your own entertainment and growth. Stop waiting for other people to make you feel cool, and start doing things that make you feel genuinely excited about your own life. Because the secret that actually cool people figured out a long time ago is this. When you're genuinely excited about your own life, other people want to be part of it. And that's not a performance you have to maintain. That's just who you become when you stop playing it safe and start playing to win. The room is waiting for your main character energy. Stop asking for permission and just bring it. Peace out.